to the European LCS, where Roccat is setting up on stage to even the head-to-head against Fnatic, who beat them way back in Week 2. And more importantly, Roccat need every win they can get to separate themselves from elements in the standings. Let's start by taking a look at the lineup for Roccat in the top lane. Overpow, then Jankos, Nukeduck, Woolite, Vander, and their coach, Ducky. Time to refresh our memories of what happened 2 weeks ago. They had a very good game versus Unicorns of Love, running that Protect the AD comp once again. Maokai in there, Lulu, Kog'Maw for Woolite, and it does seem to be working out for them. I thought they played it correctly and aggressively. We always say, oh, we're going for that comp to protect Woolite late, that it might not be the best avenue, but it seems to be working for them.
Yeah, like at the start they were trying a lot of stuff with like Jinx and stuff, but then they just realized that, okay, well, Koreans are doing Kog'Maw Lulu, why don't we do it as well? It seems to work, and they managed to pull it off because it's actually a working protection comp in the current meta game.
Yeah, really, really strong comp, and also with an AD carry who likes to get caught. Woolite is out of position more times than most AD carries, but it wasn't punished because of how many shields and protections and disengages there were. It was a great game. The question is, was it too late? Can Roccat still string together wins because it's very late in the season?
It is super late in the season. When we had you here actually in the beginning of the season, we already brought it up, what's going to happen. A lot of people thought that the tide was going to turn for Roccat. They have a game plan, apparently, so is it then the players that just still haven't lived up to their expectations?
Well, for me, the problem is all the players have some sort of a problem. Like Woolite is getting caught all the time. Overpow hasn't adapted as well as he maybe should have. Nukeduck is a decent player, but he's not the god that he was hyped up to be. And Jankos is underwhelming this season. Like last season, I was so scared to go against him. I'm not sure if he's just underperforming or the level of the European junglers is way higher this split. In which case, I'm glad I'm not playing anymore because I would be getting crushed every game.
I would be saying more, even not only the level of the European junglers has gone up, but the level of the European LCS has gone up. Yeah. But then it makes me wonder, we did go to Katowice and it wasn't so good, so it all has to be put in perspective.
It does have to be put into perspective. Ironically, the best team in Europe was not at Katowice. And that's HTK, if anyone wants to know. But yes, the teams that went have glaring weaknesses. Gambit, not the most decisive. That's a problem that is shared with Roccat. Roccat as a team had all this potential, all this headroom, and have not played confidently or to their own game. They've been sitting back, they've been waiting, and they've been bullied. Last week was the first time, 2 weeks ago was the first time that they actually stepped up. We'll see if they can do that again.
Yeah, they did go to Katowice as well, not to play, but they had other obligations there, so we'll see how that will work out for them. On the red side of the rift for Fnatic, though, we have Huni, Reignover, Febiven, Steelback, Yellowstar, and their coach, Daylor. They are 6-0 against the bottom 4 teams. We've noticed that they've been developing some versatility in different playstyles, and Amazing actually brought up the thing that could be bad for them is the fact that Reignover and Huni have limited champion pools, or rather things that they love to play and that they will always go back to. How do you think that can influence them, or can they be exploited, Cyanide?
Yeah, Huni is always with the Lissandra and Rumble, but I actually think Reignover's champion pool is pretty good. Like, what does he play? Olaf is even stronger now, Rek'Sai, then Nidalee and Rengar as well. So.
Exactly.
The one thing that frustrates me a little bit in conjunction with the champion preferences for the team is the play style. You know, the one thing that we noticed from Gambit, one playstyle counted. SK, one playstyle counted. Fnatic are in a very similar boat. Their playstyle is fantastic, and I mean, they're sitting in second at the moment, so it's hard to call it out. But against higher caliber international teams, will that one playstyle be as easily shut down as SK's was?
Yeah, and the question is, do they even think about that right now? Because if you're good enough to pull it off, why wouldn't you? With everything set on stage, let's shoot it back over to Pyroficio at the desk to take us into Champ Select.
Thank you very much, Shox. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty important matchup, of course, for Roccat, and I think for Fnatic, you know, they're in a pretty comfortable position, but still, you want to fight for the seeding.
Two different situations here. Fnatic obviously fighting to secure top 2 spots, so you're straight into the semi-final, don't have to play the quarterfinal. Roccat playing for 2 things. One, you want to make playoffs, but you also want to avoid going down to relegation. And right now, they're sitting together with Giants in the relegation spots, obviously tied with Elements, who's just above them now. Meteor Magus just won the last game, so suddenly you got a group here of 4 teams who are fighting to avoid relegation, and that means you really got to win.
It gets very, very hectic towards the end of the season, that's for sure. And here we are into picks and bans, Roccat versus Fnatic. The Rumble off the board. They've been targeting Huni to great success so far.
And I really like this because Huni's champion pool has mainly been Rumble, Lissandra. Lissandra received another nerf on 5.5 here, so her wave there got hit pretty hard in terms of her Q, which means you're kind of trying to push him out of champions he can play. And when Huni plays tanks, it's not the same kind of style we see from him. He's not the big frontline man. He needs to be in a carry champion to do really well. So I quite like this jungle ban, and then you might put him on Lisandro. Don't worry, it's not been locked in yet.
I thought they did, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There we go. That's what I'm expecting, the Rek'Sai.
We saw the Sejuani ban again. Really, Sejuani, Rek'Sai, and Italy are going to be the 3 top junglers. Jankos is a guy who's obviously played a lot of different ones, but Rek'Sai has still been one of his main picks because he is a bit of a carry type. Raynova, however, we just saw in Olaf. He's played it before. He can go for Italy if he wants the early aggression. Otherwise, there are so many viable tank junglers at the moment once Rek'Sai is gone.
We've been talking about this one quite a little bit leading up to this week, and I feel like it's just going to get so crazy in the jungle. Let's see what Fnatic does here.
I mean, we still have picks, yeah. Lissandra is still a good pick.
You've got to go for that, I feel like, for Huni, if you've got the option.
I think you should. Get Huni on a carry top laner still, because it's the style he likes to play. If you look at like Fnatic and who deals the damage, it's very evenly spread between Febiven, Steelback, and Huni as the 3 carries. Where a team like Roccat, Overpower is sitting on like 15% of their overall damage, while Nukedog and Woolite both hit like 30% each. So there's very clear for Roccat, it's double carry, it's Woolite, Nukedog. Fnatic, it's spread out between Huni, Febiven, and Steelback, so I like getting him on Lissandra with this Rumble ban here. But this is exactly what Roccat wanted. They want to say, okay, you're going to take a champion who's received a few nerfs lately. She's still good, just not as good as she was before here, and we're going to have to see if you can perform on that champion.
Yeah, so they're kind of daring it out here, but the question is, Fnatic, when they get the comfortable picks that they want, you see them just tearing up opponents left and right. And when they've been shut down, it has been on things that have been very uncomfortable. Huni has obviously received a large brunt of not just the bans, but also the focus on the top lane. Let's see what Roccat does here in answer, and they are going to lock in the Morgana and the Lulu.
Still feel like
AP here.
You're going to see a potential Protect Woolite as a late game hyper carry coming in. We know Nukedog, he likes to play Lulu mid lane. Used to do it a long time ago when he played for Ninjas in Pajamas as well.
It's a lot of flex pick. Yeah, in just not just the Lulu, but also the Morgana.
Morgana, you can swap them around. We know Overpower's not been a carry top laner. He's been trying to play it a few times, hasn't really worked for him. Put him on a big tank or a supportive top lane like Lulu or Morgana, and use instead simply Overpower to protect Woolite in late game. Because Woolite is an AD carry who has some great mechanics, who can deal a lot of damage, but
he needs some saving sometimes.
He needs a lot of saving because he tends to really overextend, get caught out by skill shots, and when you're against a Lissandra Annie, that's just begging you, or begging to basically be blown up if you're an AD carry who's standing too far forward. But with the Morgana Black Shield, with the shield from a Lulu, you can basically have your AD carry soak up all the damage from Lissandra Annie and still be alive. And that can be the tactic for Roccat.
Oh,
there it is.
We get the jungle zap.
Yeah. Sana talked about it.
Too. Yeah?
Sana talked about it.
So Raynova would be the one to try it out.
So we just mentioned how when Rek'Sai is gone, Nidalee's still a great pick. However, there's so many viable tank junglers now who comes just under the tier 1s of Rek'Sai, Nidalee, and Sejuani. It's gonna be Zac in this game. Obviously got a few more buffs. He's knock up now and he's 1 second. That's massive. Because then you time that with your ulti and you can knock up targets for quite a long time. You are a powerhouse in the jungle. You can farm so well. You can clear extremely fast. You don't even need potions after your first clear. You just run around the jungle here. You gain so much HP back from obviously your passive. So I really like Zac on the current patch. And like, look at this Fnatic combo already. You got flash in from an Annie, you got Lissandra diving in, you got a Zac jumping in. There's so much dive in here. The only concern is they are against the Morgana and Lulu, which was picked by Roccat to really protect this backline. And we won't even get to see Willard on a hyper carry. Instead, he has more mobility on a Lucian. So it's gonna be hard for Fnatic to take him down, which is why they might change it up and just say, okay, where's the Lulu? Instead, let's pop the Lulu, because everyone is expecting the AD carry to die.
So now, what we are expecting to see is a pickup for Febiv, and just all likeliness, Huni's going to be rocking the Lissandra. They still technically have the option to switch things around, but I don't think that's going to be the case in this particular situation.
No. I mean, he can go for Ahri if they want a bit more dive in. Ahri is fantastic.
Oh, a lot of gap
on
close
this patch.
around the way, too.
Aim for some safe wave clear. We know Xerath has been a big pick for him, and there's not a whole lot that's going to dive him.
Oh, the crowd
It's not going to be a teamer, guys. It's not going to be a teamer.
I mean, they're hoping. One of these days.
One of these days. Well,
there'll be mushrooms covering the rift.
Of all the viable champions and strategies in 5.5, none of them have Teemo in it.
Yeah, but they do have Hecarim.
They do have Hecarim.
That is going to be the switch around. They're going to send Huni on that one.
Febron on the Lissandra.
But it's curious because he's going to be going up against a Jarvan top lane. So these are two guys that, well, I guess Hecarim is a little bit more viable in the top lane than the jungle from what we've seen, but Diamond was doing some weird stuff last game.
Yeah, Hecarim top lane can go for their Trinity Force and still become tanky. And it is a Huni style. It's a carry top laner. You can split push, you can TP in. We know Huni as a player and Fnatic as a team is fantastic to play around teleports. Hecarim is probably the best top lane in the game at using teleport because again, you build home guard, you TP in behind and you just run at them with like 9,000 miles an hour and you smack into the enemy 80 carry or AP
I
carry.
believe you mean 9,000 horsepower.
Horsepower, so
That's
you're
right.
correct.
Close enough, though.
In an hour. So I really like to pick up here for Huni. Fnatic, they're kind of comp here. A lot of dive in, fantastic mid-game setup with the Graves, Lissandra, Hecarim, get the Trinity Force completed. And again, Fnatic as a team, they tend to create the leads around 20 minutes and then forward. That's where they start grouping up. They get the one or two items completed, then they force objectives where they hard engage on you, and they're so good at doing it.
Superior
Yellow Star
fighting,
also can roam around on Annie here, so this is really a Fnatic composition. Question is, can Woolite stay alive?
That is always the question.
That's
But
always the
this
question.
time is special. I mean, he's on a very safe carry. He's on Lucian.
Very
We'll see
true.
how this one does go. But let us know what you guys think. Hit us up on Twitter at LBL Esports with your hashtags ROCWin or FNCWin. Who do you think is poised to take this one? The crowd, they're certainly amped for it. We're going to see on the Rift in just a moment. Here we go. This is a big one for Roccat and for seeding, also for Fnatic. Starting off onto the Rift.
And we can really see how Roccat here, they know Fnatic are so good in the mid game, so they're going to try and counter it. Jarvan top lane, fantastic in the laning phase. Fantastic once he gets like a Tiamat completed, has insane amount of all-in potential. So that's step one, okay, you're not going to run over our top laner. Step two, we know Lulu is super safe mid laner, even has decent damage in terms of the mid game. So
And they trust
that's step
Nukeduck on
two.
it,
They
too.
trust Nukeduck on
The
it,
one
for
game
sure.
that he's had in the LCS, he went completely wild.
And while Lucian gets countered by Graves in the laning phase, once you get out of the laning phase, once you get 2 or 3 items completed, Lucian starts really doing more than a Graves. So Roccat has a good setup in the mid game themselves, and we can see them put a lot of focus on Opa in this top lane. He's on a carry champion.
They're not
He's
waiting for the
losing,
lane to start.
No, he's losing the first one. Huni didn't even buy any potions. He just got a flask, and then he's ready to fight.
Yeah, he got the better of that one for sure. A couple of wards placed down there. So hasn't been too much more action, but now it is going to be Woolite and Vander actually trying to chase out Yellow Star. Is moving in.
Didn't get the ward down. They wanted the ward to spot if Fnatic was starting on Grump. First of all, if there's a 2v2 lane, it will give you that information. Okay, are they going to get that XP advantage? Do we have to be careful how we play the lane in the start? Because if the enemy team gets Grump and you don't get a camp, you have to just kind of sit back. Don't push the lane at level 1, because if you start pushing it, you will still lose the race to level 2, and then suddenly you're caught in the middle of the lane. Enemy 80 carries level 2, your 80 carries level 1, you can't trade, and you're forced to move back and away, and you get zoned out. So it's very important you get that information. We can see Vander is going in again, trying to get that ward here to see if Fnatic is starting on Grump. We just talked about how Graves will beat a Lucian, especially if he gets to level 2 first.
They don't get out for free. A steal back though. He walks right back in to the Dark Binding to start this one off. It looks like we will see a bit of jungle buddying for just a moment.
Let me see Huni steal away.
He's taking
Rain over.
He's actually taking the Raptor camp himself. So
It's good against the Jarvan.
I agree, but he's gonna have to go back, and then I guess he doesn't have to spend his teleport, but he's losing out on so much XP if he doesn't, or so many minions and XP.
Well, he should be teleporting back to lane. You always do, because again, as you just said, you don't want to lose out. And this is why he didn't start potions. So he got 300 gold after he did the Raptor camp. Instant bought a cloth armor, and he still has to sustain from the flask, and obviously he's W. So he did this simply to get a lane advantage for himself. If it's better than having 3 or 4 potions in terms of trading, we're going to have to see for Huni, because those potions do a lot of work for you early game. But he's already looking at Overpower here, because Overpower, he's pushing the lane. He was trying to get that level 2 point. Huni teleports in with the Raptor level 2. Suddenly, advantage for Fnatic.
Yeah, Huni is having a blast already to start this one off against Overpower. So we'll see how that one continues. Meanwhile, the rest of the lanes have been a little more quiet. Febiven is taking some damage from Nukeduck, even though there's a level discrepancy now. That quick level up, it is resolved. Febiven not going to check in onto Nukeduck just yet. Still very safe on that Lulu.
And I like this play here from Rainover. Notice what he did. He did 1 camp, that was the red buff. And then because Raptor had been taken by Huni, then Rainover walked all the way down into the river, killed the Skull Crab here simply to make sure his bottom lane can push the lane. Because you know when you have Annie, she's a very immobile support, and you know you're going to play aggressive with the Graves. If you don't have proper wards, it's very easy for a Rek'Sai to walk down through the river and just gank you, get an early first blood for Roccat. So what they did instead is they double ward the entrances and even take the Skull Crab here to get vision at the dragon. So if Jankos decides to tunnel over the dragon wall, he will still be spotted. So I like that from Rainover. You get some early gold, you get more vision for your team, even though you sacrifice your own farm just a little bit.
Yeah, he has missed out on some of that, but I think they're really going to be a little bit more reliant on him for those fights. You mentioned a lot about the gap closing and the initiation ability, and just the tankiness that Reignover is going to bring to that party. But the vision control in the early laning phase, I mean, this is allowing Fnatic to really bully out Woolite and Vander.
And they do. They keep pushing in the lane here. They want to trade all the time. They want to try and deny farm under the tower, slowly chip it away. So simply by that early start, Fnatic can push in the first wave. Now, all the wards has disappeared. And suddenly they got to be a bit more careful, at least until Steelberg places his ward and before Febiven gets his own ward ready again. So simple little start, but it means so much when you look at like early warding compared to jungler, because you should always expect the jungler to show up around 3 minutes and 20 seconds. That's why you should sit on a double buff, and that's why you gotta have your wards down, so you know if he's coming for you, and that's exactly what Fnatic did. Now, of course, they've run out a minute later, and Jankos, he's looking towards the top lane.
Sneaky, sneaky for both junglers. Reignover, however, has taken the slower path around. They don't know it's a 2v2, but they're about to find out. Overpow, Chilling smited down. He's going to flag and drag his way to safety. Jankos reveals. And he's going to get the knock up onto Huni, but they are going to turn it around on him. Here we go, charging Jankos. Why did he go in on that one? Another Chilling smite's going to come down. Okay, that was a little risky.
Yeah,
he gets out.
Overpow and Jankos not on the same page here. You saw how Overpow, he instantly just comboed away from Fnatic, and then suddenly Jankos walked in on his own, and obviously a Jarvan is not able to respond once the combo is down. So just a bit of a poor trade for Roccat in that top lane. Reignover can get another one of these scuttlers in the river, getting some extra gold now. Looking towards Nuke Duck. Rank 2 jump, as you can see from Reignover, his E, so he's going to cover quite some distance once it gets fully maxed.
He's not even having to spend it just yet. There we go. Hops on to Nuke Duck. Level down, but he does get the smite down. Now Nuke Duck is having a little bit of trouble just dealing with him as he's forced out of lane, freeing up the farm for Febiven. Meanwhile, Yellowstar on the bottom. Checks far forward, actually, without the help of Steelback, and takes a lot of damage for his trouble.
You see again Reignover placing a deep ward to try and secure his both mid lane and bottom lane, and now you should just go back to farming though in this Zac. Get towards your level 6, you clear your jungle so well. Obviously going to get even more gold here in this river, and once again, even more control for his laners to play aggressive. Because this has been one of the things where we have criticized Fnatic in the past. The laning phase has not always been the strongest, especially not for Yellowstar and Steelback in the bottom lane. But now when they get such a good lane, Graves, Annie, into a Lucian, and they have all these wards placed early, it really allows Steelback to play aggressive and win the lane.
Yeah, so not only does he find himself actually up a decent amount of CS, which is usually very far down, they've also, the vision control has also allowed them to get this early dragon. They're going a little bit low for it, but all the same, he does get smited down and then taken down. Yellowstar picks that one up. So first dragon of the game going over to Fnatic. They're focusing so heavily on this bottom, but there is a fair amount of mobility on Reignover now, but they've got to be careful. Febiven instantly flashing as he sees Jankos, targeting him in his sights.
So got the flash force at least. Reignover back to farming now on Zac. Obviously Jankos got quite a lead because Reignover's been ganking so much. And also taking Dragon obviously doesn't really reward you a whole lot of CS. It does give you the early buffs.
Explain to the team especially.
For sure. For sure.
This is really what Reignover's game plan is in this situation, is, you know, very selfless play to make sure his lanes get ahead and stay ahead.
And look what it's also meant for Fnatic in the bottom lane. Both AD carries went back. Graves could afford a BF sword. Lucian only got a pickaxe on the longsword. That is such a bad situation to be in for Woolite now. He lost the trades before, he's now going to lose it even harder. And he simply has to respect this all-in potential now of an Annie and Graves at level 6. If that Black Shield is not there and he doesn't dash away, he will die to a BF sword Graves in those trades.
Not only that, but you know, the top lane, they haven't fared a whole lot better either. Overpow has been hurting for a little bit of farm, whereas Huni's been perfectly fine in this situation. Reignover, however, could be in some trouble as Jankos Tremor senses him out.
As well.
But yeah, this is going to be another 2v2. Reignover, he's not aware of this one. The ward's down. Now he's going to have to flash, but he could go down here. The gooey chunks are split. Huni's coming in to try and mop this one up. Can he pick up Jankos? That's the question. Ignite already down on him. There's the first blood as they pick up the Zac, but the answer goes in. Meanwhile, Nuke Duck, Overpow now, trying to chase down Huni as the Wild Growth is used. Since they couldn't take him out, I feel that's a worthwhile trade.
Good invade by Jankos though at first. This is simply because Reignover has again been playing for the team and he's not really been power farming, so he was fairly low in the jungle, and also Febiven was recalling with 0 mana. So Roccat saw a very good opportunity here to invade safely into that jungle, or they thought it was going to be a safe invade. At least get that first kill, but had to invest everything into it. Nuke couldn't join in time, and it was a 2v2 going 1-for-1. So not the worst situation for Fnatic. First blood, however, did go over to Roccat. I like the strategy though. I mean, you see the enemy mid laner being on basically 0 mana, so you know he's gonna go back to base and he won't be able to join for a fight. And then you invade in. Also with the Rex here to kind of find the Zac despite not having the deep wards placed already because of his Tremor Sense. So I quite like the play from Roccat here. Sadly, the blobs from Zac meant they had to use so much time on killing the passive as well.
Yep. Oh,
there we
flash
go.
stun. There we go. Turns on to Vander. Here comes Febiven, though. And here comes the pony. Huni dashing in. They pick up Vander. Woolite makes his way out of the collateral damage, but a power play from Fnatic is going to net them a kill and a tower.
We talked about this TP usage from Fnatic and Huni. He will always teleport to help the team. And he got the early home guards. The crowd loves him. What a great start for him. 2 kills now on Hecarim. That is his kind of champion.
Oh, yes, indeed. And he did that with just the Phage and the boots with the home guards. That was just a very, very quick horse to start this one off. So, with that said and done, Nukeduck now pushing in on Febiven. But I feel like Fnatic is just being the much more proactive team in this situation. They've got the tower now. Oh. Overpow. He's going to try to make his great escape, but Huni's not going to let him have it. Flash, Cataclysm, lock him up for just a few more seconds. It looks like he'll be able to get away, but here comes Jankos, yeah. So they're going to turn this one. Oh! No! He's still dashing away. Can they get him? The Prey Seeker dodging out from Vander. Shut down. Goes to Vander finally, but they invested pretty heavily in that Deficio.
They did. Oh, he's a little bit unhappy about dying there. Now mid lane. Not sure why I got excited about the mid lane. They're just playing minions, but
it's exciting, dude. It's an exciting
Vander roaming. That was Vander roaming though. After the bot lane tower had died, he left the lane, walked all the way to top lane. Should be able to get a tower for Roccat up there for them. So they trade at least the bot tower for the top tower now, and they got a kill on Huni as well, who just picked up 3 before. And so a good trade from Roccat at least getting back here. Mid lane was pushed out. Obviously bot lane, nothing really to gain. So at least they respond.
That's true. Roccat has been still making plays around the map, and you can see this tunnel network of Jankos is coming in seriously handy, though he hasn't gone for the Void Rush just yet.
Yeah.
He's got him a good distance apart on the map. And, you know, you've got a Dragon a little bit more than a minute away. Obviously, you want to contest that one the next time Fnatic was able to sneak it out. But Roccat aren't too many steps behind Fnatic in this.
No, it's only Woolite being really far behind on this Lucian here compared to Steelback. BF, Sword, and Pickaxe. Now Woolite has gone for Average Blade simply because he went back, had around 800 gold. He couldn't buy anything. I mean, you don't really want the crit cloak at that point because you need some way of like getting back in the game. So he needs that extra gold now from the Average Blade. So he's really not in a good situation. He needs to sit and farm till he has a BF Sword, the 1550 gold, before he really wants to do anything. That should mean this next Dragon will go over to Fnatic, because Steelback is so far ahead, teleports. Opa will be close, at least, on Jarvan. He has the Tiamat now, as we mentioned before, which is fantastic. However, if Opa dives in at this point, he gets blown up very easily.
This is true. There's your Void Rush, as they look to put some muscle out over by the Dragon Pit. Febiven, though, in the area as well. Rainover already on site, gets the crab cleared away. The Dark Binding is not going to connect. A couple of pink wards in these brushes to make sure they secure some vision. One's cleared out immediately by Roccat, but the rest of Fnatic is now coming down.
Okay.
So is Huni.
Roccat wants to fight it despite having a weak 80 carry. Oh, Yellowstone needs to be careful.
Yeah, he's isolated, actually. He's going to dodge out the skill shots. The chains are on him, however. Tibbers is dropped, but so is Yellowstar. Rainover bouncing all around, and it looks like Fnatic are trying to salvage the situation, but it's a 2-for-1 so far. Here comes Huni. Everyone on Roccat. Oh, so low after the fact. Huni's going to take down Woolite. They have Jankos slow. They turn their attention on Nukeduck.
They got it.
Oh, and down goes Jankos. Nukeduck nearly going to be the ace after the fact. So Fnatic comes up with a power play, but they're not satisfied with that just yet. A double kill going over, and for just a second they have the ace.
And that was not even a bad start for Roccat here. They managed to kill the Annie first at least, while Fabian was coming from the bottom lane, while Huni was coming from the mid lane. But Fnatic is just so much stronger at this point. Steelback was just left on his own. Let's see it again. So they're going on Yellowstar. Look at your minimap. Huni's not there yet, Fabian is not there yet. So it's 5 versus 3. Still trade 1-for-1. Now Huni and Fabian joins. Rainover will drop. But Steelback at this point is left completely untouched. Beautiful ulti from Huni, then Fabian coming in, and everyone just melts. There's no damage for Woolite at this point. And obviously the Lulu as well is not going to be the one to carry the fights. You need your AD carry to pull out the damage.
Oh, yes, indeed, you do. That was Fnatic just surgically taking apart Roccat after that. After the engage that really was great for Roccat, they just couldn't quite finish it off in time. So Fnatic, they get that quick ace, they get Dragon number 2. And Roccat are going to have some questions that need answering now on how they're going to start these next fights.
Especially because they need so much time, and even going towards the late game, it's not like Roccat has a better composition. Jarvan's damage really falls off towards the later stages of the game. Rek'Sai is not as strong in teamfights as a Zac. So this is not looking good for Roccat, and I think they might regret this Jarvan pick because it meant they were forced to play standard lanes. You don't want to lane swap a Jarvan into Hecarim because Hecarim is so good at farming the jungle with his jungler, and obviously when he's playing a little bit. But
he's having such a good time.
Yeah.
He's able to eke out the solos on the way back to base, man.
Jarvan itself needs the laning phase to do really well because he's a lane bully. He's about the mid game. So when you pick him, you go standard lanes, even though there's a Graves into Lucian.
Oh,
And now
hello, the Timbers Yellow Star, though, a little bit low, but here comes the horse. Woolite isolated from the pack. He takes down Yellow Star, but he trades his own life for it as Huni comes up with that kill. Dashing in, that is going to be another kill picked up. This time, it goes over to Nukedog, or excuse me, goes over to Steelback as they take down Nukedog and Jankos. A 3-for-2 trade. Fnatic coming up ahead again.
Still, two bitter
pills, I suppose. They got 2 kills taken out.
Two kills for Roccat. 2 pills as well, I guess. Whatever. 2 kills at least for them. But Steelback still in his graves, just standing in the back line, cleaning house, and Huni. 5 kills, 5 assists.
Very big. They're going to jump on him, but still,
Why?
This is not advised.
Why?
In a number disadvantage. Vander goes down. Oh my goodness, Overpound nearly follows him. Fnatic rolling all the way through, but Reignover's going to be hopping his way to safety right over the head of Jankos. One goes underground, the other goes over your head.
Everyone backs away. Calm down again. Let's see
how this
fight.
happens.
So, Zac setting up with the Raptor. Yellowstar, as we know, always on the main engage. Flash in. Tippers on Vander, Jankos. Reignover joins. Huni TPing behind them. And again, this start, Woolite dives in, gets a kill on Yellowstar. So support is down, but it doesn't really matter for Fnatic. The carries, or the Steelback in this case, still left untouched. Huni dives in, cleans up another one. Steelback will be able to get Jankos as well. This Graves is really just left on his own. He had a free laning phase. He already sits on Infinity Edge. Zeal being picked up for him now. 4-0 and 4. This guy, he's chasing Forgiven in terms of the best KDA in Europe. Because Singing Forgiving is currently above him. If he keeps racking up the kills, he's going to get very close.
Well, you know, considering a lot of people identified Steelback as one of the weaker parts to Fnatic, especially in their early game, he's been enabled, he's been unleashed, and this game he's just been absolutely off the hook.
Right.
404 is a great start to him. Huni has been a beast. There's so many threats that Roccat have to deal with now, and also this massive push coming from Fnatic. They're not getting any chance to really breathe.
Oh, and there was the point before this Jarvan here. Roccat felt like they had to do standard lane, so you had to put Lucian into Graves. That's a losing matchup for the Lucian. We saw Fnatic played around the early wards, the early vision, to make sure the bottom lane could do what they wanted. So suddenly, Steelback has been giving all the tools to win the early game, and he did. He's basically telling his team, we can do this every single time. As long as I get a good start, I can carry already from the first few team fights. But obviously it's also been about the rest of the team here. Huni had some fantastic engages, Reignover on the Zac here already becoming extremely tanky. I mean, we're 17 minutes in. He's sitting on almost 3,000 HP. This is what Cinderhulk does to you, and why these tank junglers are so viable now on 5.5.
Oh, yes. And he's just oh so mobile. You can just see how he's able to hop, skip, and really just jump from one of those camps to the next. Reignover really has just not had any trouble whatsoever. You can see also Huni, he opts to, instead of finishing the Trinity Force right now, he goes for the Frozen Heart. So he's got even more tankiness. He's got the slowing factor. And when you've got so much disruption in these fights, it's so hard for Roccat to context switch targets effectively and quickly, and this is the chaos that Fnatic's been creating in those engages.
And when the main part of Rocket's composition is involved around physical damage from Lucian, from Jarvan, from Rek'Sai, the Frozen Heart is going to be fantastic. Slow down the attack speed. You can go for Randon's Omen, you can go for Thornmill. Everything that makes Reignover and Huni basically unkillable is going to build around armor. Lulu is not a champion who wins teamfights on her own. She's about buffing up everyone else. She has decent damage, but she's not a massive AP carry. So Roccat is really in a situation where it's going to be nearly impossible for him to kill the front line of Fnatic already. Double tanks. If you fall behind a double tank, it's so annoying to play. I mean, we've all tried in solo queue. La 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 la, win my laning phase, I'm a strong AD carry. Oh, here's a Hecarim, I'm dead. And that's going to happen as well here.
Certainly starting to look that way. And of course, once he finishes that Trinity Force, he'll have quite a lot of damage to complement. Fnatic grouping 4 here as they do send Huni to the top. Deal it out with Overpow. He has had the better of that so far. I mean, Overpow's just been stuck on half item builds for quite a long time. He's had the Tiamat for most of the game, and he hasn't bothered to finish that one up into the Hydra, instead going for the tankiness because his team really needs it. Yeah,
by Fnatic losing the early game, they lost basically the whole reason for picking the Jarvan, because Jarvan again is supposed to win lane and become like a bit of a split pushing bully who can then push into lane, then walk down and like dive onto the enemy tower and like just one-shot or nearly one-shot a target. So that's why you normally see like the full damage, at least 1 or 2 damage items on the top lane Jarvan. In this case, because they lost the early game, because Fnatic is going to force team fights, Overpow has to adapt and say, okay, I'm just going to be a tank now. I'm not going to kill anyone, I'm just going to be a tank. And that's what he's doing. But that's where Jarvan is going to be so much weaker than the standard tank picks we see, because he doesn't really offer a whole lot. So he's just going to try and be a front line for his team, but he's not going to be nearly tanky enough for them to really challenge here. Let's see. Febrand is coming in. Notice Huni. He's teleporting from base of home guard.
They stop damaging the Drake for just a moment. Jankos wanted to go in for the smite. The fight is a little bit awkward here. It does get taken secure by Rainover. Meanwhile, here comes Huni, and everyone from Roccat just scatters. 2 kills picked up. Vander, Woolite, both going down. Overpow just bailing away, and now they might have their sights set on the Baron as Jankos Void rushes defensively out. Fnatic, they take a lead, and they start gunning for it.
Absolutely love this game here. So many fights, so much action going on. Doesn't have to be boring just because you can build a double tank setup. Well, I guess Hecarim is not really counting in that case.
Definitely not boring, but
not boring at all.
They're not wanting to give this one up for free, but they might lose their lives as well. Zanya's Hourglass popped. Overpow goes down. Straight back to Baron, boys. But Jankos, he's still threatening. He's still got his smite available, but Steelback is making him regret trying to contest it. Baron goes down. Steelback staying alive even after Ignite and Praise Seeker. Fnatic, they get everything.
21 minutes in, 3 dragons to 0.
And a Baron.
15 kills already. 80 carry, 6 kills, your top lane of 5 kills. Righteous Glory is gonna come in for Yellow Star, and Huni, he's back. And he's out.
Force the wild growth. I mean, Roccat never has these key cooldowns all available at the same time because they're just continually trying.
Look at the minimap here.
Yeah.
Huni is sitting in base, knowing there's going to be a fight because Roccat just want to try and get 1 dragon and stop this potential 5th dragon. Fnatic, though, they take it, they want to fight. This is a good enough from Overpow. He stops the home guard first, but now the entire team is just grouped up in a choke point against Alessandra, against the Annie. I mean, again, this is the Fnatic style. If they see an opening, they will flash on you, they will engage on you, and they will catch you.
And that is indeed what they did. Grabbed everything they could after the fact with Overpow and Jankos bailing away. Meanwhile, back to the live look here. It's a 9,000 gold advantage with the 3 dragons, the Baron, 4 towers to 3. I mean, that's probably the closest stat with the tower numbers just because Roccat have been able to send Overpow on the split push missions a couple of times. But it looks like that's about to change. Fnatic, a lot of members on this bottom side of the jungle, warding it all the way through. Woolite knows he has to get the hell out of dodge. They can't defend this one.
No, sending 3 guys to try and kill Huni. He has ulti ready. Let's see if he can escape. He should be able to just pop it now, get as far away as possible.
He doesn't even have to.
Doesn't even need to. But again, 4 guys on the bottom lane. Cross-map objective from Fnatic. Super simple setup. You ward the enemy jungle, you push down 2 lanes at once, and if they ever show up in one of the lanes, you know you can take something elsewhere.
Oh,
in this case, it's a piece of
Woolite, yeah, and that's going to be the tower as well. The inhibitor close to going down. It's just so many people jumping, dashing, clawing their way to you, and there's just no way that Roccat has to stop this one. 80 carries down for them. Looks like they'll turn their sights on the middle. Who needs minions? We can tank this one up. It's Tibbers that's actually doing that job. But now, Rainover, he's caught just a little bit, taking some abuse. He's still tanking as much as possible, and he hops the wall. They'll come back and try this one again. Meanwhile, Steelback slowed up for a second, on the way to top.
Very decisive play using the 2 lanes that push in Huni in the top lane and the bottom lane before. From the rest of Fnatic. Roccat won't really be able to do a whole lot. There are only 4 guys here. A lot had already died. And I mean, watching Fnatic is just like watching a game on double speed. They just never sit back
yeah.
They keep looking for fights. They keep getting all the objectives. 3 dragons again, as we mentioned before, in 25 minutes or 24 minutes. There's no reason to stop. Go back, buy a few more items. Void Staff completed for FEBEVEN. Walk straight back down here. You've got top lane and mid lane. They should be pushed in. You know the super minions are going to do work in the bottom side. Pushing these 2 lanes. Have Huni in one, the 4 others in the middle. You might even just go for a dive. I mean, you're that far ahead.
Yeah, well, and Roccat can't afford to group right now. Willet's having to be on cleanup duty in the bottom, and then he alternates back over by the red buff. But still, you look at that item differential, too, and not just the scores that have enabled it. Steelback hasn't died this game, and he's just sitting on so much when you compare to Woolite, still attempting to even finish off his static Shiv. That's not looking good for Roccat.
Forced into standard lanes. Completely backfired for them. Now they're going in.
The tower is down.
Yeah, they
got the stun. Overpow is going to be in some trouble. The flag and drag is not up just yet. Inhibitor being fired down. Huni's still just able to cause enough distraction on his own. Here comes the culling, but it just tickles Fnatic, and they grab the inhibitor number 2. Rainover in the middle, bouncing all around. He's exhausted, but that didn't really seem to give him too much pause. Roccat have chased Fnatic out of their base again, but they have done so at a pretty high cost. A lot of minions here. FEBEVEN picking up Overpow as he dashes his way in. Jankos, they're still trying to make plays, but they're a man down now, and the super minions are streaming into the base on the bottom side. This inhibitor turret is not going to last very long, and it looks like Roccat may not either if they keep this one up.
I think you're correct, Pyra. I think you are correct. I don't think they're going to hold on for
They're going to keep trying. There go the chunks, but still, Yellowstar lands the stun. Jankos, Wild Growth, Woolite trying to trade Steelback. Meanwhile, Huni teleporting in. Here comes the horse. One more time. Jankos barely makes it out alive, and Vander's not so lucky. Here comes Fnatic to try to wrap this game up. 25, nearly 26 minutes in. The last Nexus turret falls. The Nexus is short to do it, and Fnatic, a dominating performance over Roccat.
"26 minutes. That's all.
That's a quick game.
Fnatic played this so well. Like, everything was just perfect. They got all the right engages. I love watching Fnatic play when they have these hard engage compositions. They're so good at starting fights. I'm just sitting here smiling because this game was played at double speed from Fnatic, and Roccat doesn't even know what hit them.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. That's just a speedy game from them, and smiles all around. They deserve it. That is the type of play that everyone wants to see out of Fnatic.
Oh, yeah.
And you cannot fault them a single bit for the way they played that.
Now, putting a bit of pressure now on H2K and SK Gaming here.
Oh, yes.
The 2 other teams fighting for the top 2 spots in Europe. Fnatic is now tied with SK, at least in terms of wins, and SK is playing Giants later, while H2K will take on Elements. So, still a lot of action going on here. 2 more weeks.
There's the man.
He can be happy. He can be happy.
Yes. And just for everyone who has any doubts, his horse is amazing.
His horse is absolutely amazing. Oh, well, for Fnatic. So, I mean, Roccat here again. I feel like this Jarvan pick just forced them into play an early game they didn't want to. I'm not too sure what the main strategy was going to be, because normally when you have Jarvan, you pair him with like a very, very, hard engage composition, or well, a composition that can gank really well early on. So you take, like, we saw Gambit pull off a Twisted Fated IEM with the Jarvan, and you just like keep porting to the top lane and gank for him. You have a jungler who just camps that lane because you really want to snowball him. None of that really happened. We can see Jankos tried to. He walked top lane, but Lulu is never really going to follow up top.
Yeah.
So the Lulu pick in that sense didn't really do anything. But the whole strategy just meant we have to do standard lanes. We're going to be in a disadvantage in the bottom lane, and that really hurt us. Also, with obviously Huni picking up these early kills, kind of removed the whole point of Jarvan.
Well, I really think the early game setup for Fnatic was particularly brilliant in the way Rainover was doing. You talked a lot about how he goes and clears with the Scuttle Crab, and then, of course, there was a lot of the warding effort. It just was kind of like a war of attrition with the wards there after the fact that enabled Steelback and Yellowstar to just push in as hard as they wanted.
Yeah,
and there was no help possible. Jankos was a little bit busy focusing up top, focusing around the map, focusing on clearing his jungle out. And by the time he was able to help, the tower was gone.
Yeah.
So from there, it was kind of almost like playing a 5v4 because they effectively neutralized Woolite in really getting involved in the fights. You saw how low he had how little damage he really had at the end when he was trying to force people back. He was culling the entire team, and it did nothing.
It was just a really well played early game, because when also you have those wards placed on the bottom side, at every entrance to the river, if you don't see the jungler there, you just tell your top laner, play safe.
Yeah.
Like, there's such a high chance the enemy jungler is sitting up there. We saw Jankos try, did nothing, because Huni was just, okay, I'm just going to sit back. The invade was good from Roccat on the red buff. Like, the plan was great.
Yeah, I mean, they got the kill.
But that was it. Like, Fnatic, it was all about them in this game. They played the early game perfectly. They played the team fight so well. I love the hiding edge compositions. I love that Huni's picking up Hecarim, because it is his type of champion. He can carry on, he can split push, and
it's tanky, which is something that he didn't have in his other picks.
That too, and you can home guard teleport.
Exactly.
Which looks awesome.
Which he did several times. If you ever want to have a 101 on how to play top Hecarim, well, that was it.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, he did fantastic on that one. And, again, it wasn't just him. Reignover had a really effective performance on Zac, did exactly what he needed to for his team, especially. He had a fairly good kill participation. Obviously, his kills themselves weren't that great, but then you don't need that, because you're just getting in the middle of the enemy team and bouncing up and down and scaring them into throwing summoners on you. You saw how much they exhausted him, and he's just like, everyone focus me. And then it was fine.
Your entire job is to jump in and just die. And then your passive is there, and if they focus your passive, they don't deal damage to anyone else.
Yeah.
And you've basically done your job.
To smite a chunk.
Sure.
Yeah. And you don't even need Chilling Smite for that either.
No, that's true. Yeah. But you have done your job then, so really well played. Love the early game. Love the mid game. Love the late game.
Well, we
didn't really get to.
Did you love the fact that they didn't have a late game?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. 26 minutes.
That was one of the faster games we've had in quite some time.
And remember as well, if you play any support, Righteous Glory is fantastic on her right now with the buff to it. Mentioned already in the last game.
She's not quite so squishy at that point, too.
No, she's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone gets Righteous Glory.
You can see how little there is to talk about in this game, because it was so fast.
It was just like, we can break it down as much as we want.
How was your day,
but it was wonderful.
Was it?
I got on a train. I came over here. I got to say what up to my favorite co-casters, and get ready to go.
Sounds extremely boring.
Well, if you put it that way.
I mean, anyway, more about Fnatic. Sorry,
Dude,
for Roccat now.
It was an amazing game from Fnatic, but for Roccat, what does this mean for them? That's the question.
Yeah, it basically means now you are not even looking at giants and elements. You're also looking at medium makers, and you're looking at that relegation position. Just to recap it, I know we've said it many times, number 10, auto-relegated to the Challenger Series, no chance of staying in the LCS. And number 9 and number 8 is playing relegation. That will be the week after the playoffs or the finals here in the EU LCS in Madrid, of course. The week after, we're back in Berlin, we're playing relegation. 2 Challenger teams comes, 2 LCS teams, and then obviously the 2 winners will be in the LCS. For Roccat, this was one of the games where we probably wouldn't say they were supposed to win it. They have a fairly easy schedule left.
Yeah, this was easily their roughest.
Yeah, this was the hardest game they
had. You've got Giants coming up. You've got Copenhagen Wolves and Meet Your Makers.
Yeah,
but of course,
2 of them you should be able to win.
You should, but we've also seen some very surprising play out of Meet Your Makers and Giants.
True.
And and again, the Wolves, they're not exactly slouching either, so it could be a little rougher than it might appear on the surface. Rocket's got some work to do, that's for sure.
They do. Elements coming up later today, obviously fighting with them. And number 7, safe spot. We're gonna have to see who will get it.
Yep. Well, to break that down, and of course to break the game down, let's go ahead and check in at the analyst desk, where Shox is joined by Fnatic's dominant Korean duo.
Thank you very much, Pyrotechnics. Dominant indeed, as we were joined here by Huni and Reignover after they dove headfirst into the 5.5 metagame and won over Roccat in an extremely impressive fashion. Huni, welcome. I want to ask you about your horse in the top lane, Hecarim, and if you would have picked it, even if you didn't see the Jarvan locked in, and why you wanted to go for it.
자르반 픽 안 보고 헤카림 그냥 선픽했는데 왜 헤카림을 고른 건지.
Because already banned Maokai and Rumble. I cannot play against only Maokai and Rumble, so I can blind pick.
So you guys did first pick Lissandra. Did you know that this wasn't going to be for top lane for you? And do you think she's viable after the nerf that was on her Q again in 5.5?
리산드라 빠르게 골랐는데 탑으로 안 쓸 건지 아니면 그냥 이번에 패치 이후로도 그냥 계속 탑으로 쓸 수 있는지.
Yeah, Lissandra can still use the top because only nerfed Qs some damage, little damage, and it's still same. Team fight is really good, and TP when use TP is really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Rome is really good, yeah.
Even without TP, Febiven was doing some serious damage on Lissandra.
Yeah, so in the pre-show I said that I'm really looking forward to seeing Zach, and I think he will be played. And obviously great minds think alike, but I was kind of surprised still to see you pick Zach when like Nidalee was open. Do you think it's just a better pick or would be better for the combo?
I didn't really have lots of time to practice Zac, but in Korea before, like I used a lot of Zac, and I was like one of the Zac players, so like it was no problem for me to play it. And the new jungle patch is too good, really good for Zac, really fits. And even though if an enemy jungler have Nidalee or Rek'Sai or like really strong jungler in early game, but I can just control the crop, which is really good in early game. I can just give up one jungle camp rather taking crop. Take crop rather like that, and I can just like this game. I buy lots of early game, lots of wards, and then I put on top mid and 3 wards on like all lanes. So Rek'Sai couldn't really do a lot. So if I just pass like before 6 or like before jungle item, then Zac, like tank junglers do way more things in teamfights. So I just pick it.
Yeah. Did you actually ban Kog'Maw because you're afraid of the disgusting Lulu Kog'Maw combo, or it's just because you wanted to play tanks and you know that Kog'Maw shreds them?
Our coach see like how Roccat plays, and then they like last or the 2 games before they played the combo with Kog'Maw, like Lulu Kog'Maw or like something like that, and they were really good with that comp. And it doesn't matter like for me picking like tank jungler against Kog'Maw, but like we just don't want them to play that comp, so we just ban it.
Just ban it out. And you guys, we criticized Fnatic a little bit beforehand. Maybe is there only one style you can play? Do you feel like with patch 5.5 you're able to play the same style you do but better because of the changes?
Yeah, of course. Like I really like playing tank junglers, and like in this patch, lots of tank jungler. I can use like I think maybe like something like people never use, like Cho'Gath or like something else. Like these things would work too. So I'm trying like every junglers. So like maybe if it's good, I can just use like I can just try everything.
Yeah, baiting people into playing Cho'Gath versus you guys. I see what's going on here. Taking a step backwards and looking at the bigger picture, top 3 now: H2K, SK Gaming, and Fnatic. How do you think that guys will change that order in the next 2 weeks, Huni?
Maybe we can win against HK. So we finished second to top 2.
You think you're gonna end top 2?
Yeah.
And then picture for playoffs, Reignover?
Playoff? Like what should I say?
I don't know. What do you want to say? How is it gonna end up for Fnatic?
I think if we just keep up and like practice as we did like before, like if we just don't stop practicing a lot, then like if we just do what we did on scrims and like what we practiced, then maybe we can be the first.
One final question: when you guys set up on the stage, there's always a lot of Huni going on. Are you ever afraid that it will go to Huni's head, the fame?
Again?
Are you sometimes afraid that all the cheering for Huni will go to his head and he won't be able to play?
No, actually, he enjoyed the cheers and like he like waves like hands to like the fans, and like I think he's playing better if fans keep saying like Huni.
Yeah?
Yeah, I agree, yeah. I need cheer.
You need the cheers to do good. And well, it worked out here. Congratulations. Fantastic victory. Versus Roccat once again for Fnatic. For now, we have to take a short break, but we'll be back in a few as the Copenhagen Wolves and the Unicorns of Love duke it out for the 5th place spot in the standings. You won't want to miss it.
This is a big one for Roccat and for seeding, also for Fnatic. Yeah, he's isolated, actually. He's going to dodge out the skill shots. The chains are on him, however. Tibbers is dropped, but so is Yellowstar. Reignover bouncing all around.
Go, here. Go. Lucian. Go, TP.
Heal me.
Lulu, here. Rek'Sai.
Nice! Yankos wanted to go in for the smite. The fight is a little bit awkward here. It does get taken, secured by Reignover. Meanwhile, here comes Huni and Fnatic. A dominating performance over Roccat.